Star Wars is in a very bad state. It's not as bad as the MCU, I would say, because the MCU is just way worse due to the fact that it has been bringing out more content that has caused it to, fan trust has gone further down. But Star Wars is still in a really bad place, ultimately speaking. It's an absolute horrible place to be in. But I do think it's way easier to save Star Wars than it is to save the MCU. And I think the way you save Star Wars right now is by doing a simple thing. You make a new trilogy. You need a new trilogy of movies to save Star Wars. I think if you give them that and you do things properly and correctly with that new trilogy, Star Wars fans will come running back to you. And that's what we're going to get into in this video, how to save Star Wars with this new trilogy. Welcome back, Tiger Pack. It's your boy Black Tiger Talks back with another video. In this video, we're going to go into the Star Wars trilogy that I would create in order to save this franchise. And the thing is, I'm going to go over 3 different things with it. We're going to go over the concept of the series itself, so just the broader concept of each of the movies within the series. And then we're going to go over, of course, another element. We're going to go over the actual character concepts that they're going to be added in as far as not just the character concepts, but also the concept of the action, what the series can be focused on, the broader themes. And then finally, we're going to go over the actual trailer parts, how you would market this movie, because I think that when it comes to bringing back fandoms, one of the biggest parts about it is the marketing. A lot of people, even if you make a great movie, even if you make a great TV show, what ends up happening is that these people won't come see it because they don't have any trust in you anymore. But if you add in a really good trailer, people will come and see it. So we're going to go through all 3 of those things, and we're going to basically see if we could possibly save the Star Wars universe. So first thing first, let's go over the actual concept of this new trilogy. Now, part of my thumbnail, one of you seen it, I'm doing different thumbnail tests at the moment, but one of the thumbnails is going to say the way forward is back. And that's the truth. A lot of people believe you have to, retcon Rey, you have to retcon Finn, you have to retcon the whole sequel trilogy. And I agree to a certain extent that a lot of that trilogy did destroy a lot of Star Wars, ultimately speaking. But I think that there's a way around just retconning it all completely. And the way forward, as the thumbnail says, is back. And you have to go further back. Now, some people say you already did this, you did this with the Acolyte series, but that was just a stupid idea. I'm not gonna lie. I've said this before, at least in colloquially to my regular people. I said that ultimately speaking with the Acolyte, you're talking about a situation where you're going back towards the golden age of Jedi, which is a stupid idea because there's no conflict there. The only conflict you can have is with the Jedi and the Sith, basically. And when the Sith aren't there, because of the golden age, you end up running into continuity issues if you bring the Sith in, which is what they did run into within that series. But on top, if you don't do that, you just have a boring story. So it's a stupid idea to go to the golden age of the Jedi. The proper idea, which is that idea they had in the Legends series, they had inside of a great cartoon known as Star Wars: The Old Republic. Great cartoon, sorry, a great video game, a couple video games based off that. And the idea is to go even further back towards the idea when the Sith and the Jedi were actually fighting each other. Back when the Sith had hundreds of them to thousands, maybe even millions of Sith running around. And now you had millions of Jedi trying to fight them in a massive galaxy-wide war. That just makes more sense. Again, the idea is very simple. It is Star Wars, not Star Peace, not Stardew Valley. We're talking about Star Wars. That's the idea. We want to see this galactic, massive conflict. I think that focusing on the Jedi and the Sith is the smartest idea to do that. Again, you can focus and make great stories on other parts of the, overall Star Wars universe, but the main thing that separates Star Wars from being just like Star Trek, just like any other, space opera, any other space fantasy, is the fact that it's the Jedi and the Sith and the Force and all those different cool aspects. That's what really separates it from everything else, and thus you should want to double down on those traits that make Star Wars, unique. So what I would do, again, as I just said, is go back to the Old Republic era and try to make stories from there. And I think the best thing you should do is start with the idea of the first time the Sith entered into the Republic. The Sith have been gone for thousands of years. we are ending another golden age for the Sith to come back in there from the Sith homeworld of Korriban, not from the Korriban, but from the outside regions, and to be taking Korriban. That should be the first movie. The first movie should be almost an Empire Strikes Back as far as the Sith come in there and they attack the Jedi. I think the main idea should be the Jedi have an outpost around Korriban, and they basically try to escape and tell the rest of the Republic that the Sith are here, so that the rest of the Republic can try to fight back. It's a very interesting, straightforward movie that you can go from there. And of course, you can do a lot of different character concepts with that. There's a great Old Republic little trailer that goes over it, that basically the same idea. And what you should do is you just take those characters, take those designs from that thing, take the overall broader story that they already had there, and just expand it, just expand that character idea, expand the movie, bloat it up essentially. I don't want you to bloat it up. Bloat it up is the wrong word, because that implies you're just adding just needless fluff. It's just to add in more crucial character ideas so you can have a foundation to build on in further movies. You can still have that epic female main character. You can still have, the Jedi Master there. You can still have the idea of them getting attacked by the Sith there. You can have all those ideas, and I think you should really do the best you can. The Sith plan should be going to this, retake Korriban, of course, but the main idea should be jump the Jedi in this outpost, destroy the outpost, make sure the outpost can't give information out to the rest of the galaxy so that they can sneak in quietly and basically surprise and ambush the entire galaxy. While the Jedi plan is obviously the opposite. It's to escape and get the information out to the rest of the galaxy so that they can prepare and be prepared for the Sith attack. And of course, the Jedi end up winning that situation, but the Sith are still there. Sith believe that even if they failed in stopping the Jedi, at the very least, they still have a fighting chance to defeat the rest of the galaxy, even without an ambush. It won't be an overwhelming defeat, but at the very least, they still believe they will win. So that will be very interesting to start out this series like that. And you have a solid character, main character there. You have a couple of Jedi you can use there. Give them some interesting motivations. Make sure that, again, you end it with one of the Jedi dying to the Sith, thus making sure you have the idea of the Sith and being hated by the Jedi, specifically the new Jedi main character, very similar to Obi-Wan getting killed by Darth Vader. You have a story right there in your hands, and what you do is you copy a lot of the Old Republic stuff they did in those trailers and that universe, that version, is that you can make sure you have an idea of being Star Wars enough without, of course, completely copying the original series. You have this kind of idea of the technology progression rather than just being the same technology. So I think that you should do that, copy the characters, bring in Darth Malgus, do all that stuff, just make sure the storyline's a little bit longer, and you are good to go as far as the main character content of the first movie. I'll go briefly into the second movie and the third movie. Obviously, the second movie would probably be a version of the main two ideas, where you have this idea of the Sith taking over different worlds, the actual defense against the Sith, fighting them one-on-one. We have a great epic confrontation between Malgus and the new main character. She will defeat him similar to what we saw in the actual trailer itself, but that would be like a mid-part movie. Instead, he'll come back in the final parts of the movie and destroy the Jedi Temple. That would be his plan. His plan of that movie would be to basically fake out the Jedi, get them to be focused on a certain point so he can sneak in his own ship and a bunch of Sith towards Jedi Temple, destroying the Jedi Temple and attacking the Republic at its heartlands, ending in a very Revenge of the Sith type way. He'll defeat the Jedi herself right there. It could be her or him, depending on what you want to do with it. But ultimately speaking, he defeats the main character in the Jedi Temple, and the main character has to get, taken away, basically saved by their friends, so on and so forth. So you have a very Empire Strikes Back idea to end that situation with. Darkest moment, the entirety of the Jedi Temple is destroyed, corresponds to everything blown it, and it looks like a decisive win for the Sith. And then you end it with a newer idea, at least away from the trailer idea, which is that you basically are able to go to a different part of the galaxy away from the Sith, able to gather your force up again and do one last desperate attack on the Sith to defeat the Sith Emperor type of guy, which we would just replace with Malgus. To be honest, Malgus would be the main guy, and basically would be to defeat his flagship. And once he's defeated and his flagship is defeated, and probably be even the situation where you destroy a bit of Korriban, destroy most of the Sith leadership, then without the leadership, you should be able to mob the rest of the Sith. That would be the idea. Very similar to destroying the second Death Star. You want to defeat the Sith one-on-one with that situation. I think that would be a very good ending to the series. and that'll be the main idea. Again, these are just concepts that would basically break apart the series, but that's, I think, would be the character concepts we would go with, and we would go deeper into all those things later on. But yeah, I think that would be a solid trilogy to start out with to begin the series. But past that, let's go now into the themes of the overall series. This part is going to be a little shorter than the other part because I'm just going to go over the broader theme idea. But again, I'm not talking about like major philosophical themes here. I don't think that's really majorly important when it comes to Star Wars movies. You know, you got the main theme of freedom versus, you know, oppression, all these different basic themes there. But I think what I mean by theme really is talking about the focus that the filmmaker should have when it comes to showing the movie and the way the movie works. And what I mean by that is that a lot of these movies have focused in on the wrong things. What I would want to focus on, like what would be the team philosophy or the filmmaking philosophy for these things would be, I mentioned it before, great cinematic shots. You want to have the cinematic shots be top tier. You want to be able to put these guys in an edit, a TikTok edit. You want to make sure that these cinematic shots, cinematic moments are huge and massive. And part of that also means you're going to have to slow down. So a lot of these movies want to explain every moment. They want to keep on talking, keep on yapping, keep on flapping their gums. And we would have to basically slow that down. We would have moments where just the music is showing you what's supposed to happen, giving you the feelings. Moments where the visuals itself are telling you everything. Moments when just a look alone from an actor or an actress is enough to portray what it is. We're going to have to go deeper and more methodical in that way. Not always talking, not always making jokes, not always cracking, jokes every 5 seconds, not always explaining something to the audience every 5 seconds, but doing the opposite, allowing certain scenes to speak by themselves, allowing people to speak in more metaphorical ways, allowing it to let the audience actually do some work when it comes to figuring out the way things work, rather than, again, treating them like they're children. Not just children, treating them like they're little babies and just trying to explain everything to them. That'd be one of our philosophies. Part of the other philosophy that kind of ties into the cinematic thing, ties into that idea of getting into a TikTok edit type situation, is the idea that you want to focus on spectacle. The spectacle should be massive. You should make sure that when it comes to these, when they're fighting, when they're doing a duel, the duel should take place in a great area. You got to make sure the area where the duel is taking place is amazing, that's interesting, that pops out. And you see this in the trailers of these Old Republic situations. They fought in a hangar first. That was a pretty interesting place to fight. And then you went from an hangar, you went to a forest. Another time they fought in the Jedi Temple, the broken Jedi Temple. You got to do these different things to really help out the spectacle. Make sure they fight in different cool areas. Make sure the environment is a big part of it. Make sure it looks good. Make sure it pops. And that same thing goes for other things. Like when you talk about starship pilots, you do this massive starship battle. It should be massive. It should be interesting. It should be cool. You should see this just like when you saw the very first part of Revenge of the Sith. It should be a massive spectacle. This is a Star Wars. This is on a massive, huge, incredible scale. The scale should be shown throughout the entire movie. And the same thing goes finally for the ground battles. You're going to have ground battles. We should see massive armies of Jedi, Sith, and troopers on the Sith side, troopers on the Jedi side. We should see massive things. We want this to be something that makes people go, wow. That's what it should be. It should be a wow moment. Moments that can hit in the trailers, moments that can hit in anything. The scale of this whole thing, I would say, should be massive. Put that together with a great cinematography. Put that together with the music being on core, the music being on peak, allowing moments that let the music breathe and let it actually move along. We're going to do all those things. That's what I would be the philosophy for. And one last piece of the philosophy I mentioned this in other videos before, is the fight scenes. I would really focus in on these duels between the Jedi and the Sith. Really focusing on those duels. Make those duels are massive, cool, and amazing. Really focus in on making those duels at the best possible duels. Focus on showing new lightsaber abilities. Focus on showing new lightsaber colors. Focus on showing lightsabers, throws. Focus on force chokes mid-battle and breaking through force chokes. Focus on force pushes and lightning. All of these different things. We want to make sure they combine all this stuff together. They're supposed to be the Jedi in their golden age. You should even maybe show some force speed at times. That I want to show it, the Jedi in their top condition, and the Sith in their top condition, and really make sure those fight scenes are the best fight scenes that have ever been in a Star Wars movie and a Star Wars show. With the technology that we have these days, there's no reason why it shouldn't be. So yeah, I would focus on all those things. And again, one thing we should also focus on is the politics. Focus on the realistic politics of breaking this thing down. I think that the second movie and the third movie should focus more on those parts. The first movie, of course, would be a more contained movie. But the other movie should focus on those parts. You should focus on the fear factor from the dark side, actually having them be scary, intimidating villains. Focus on those parts, make sure those guys have aura. That's a big part about it. Make sure that not just our villains have aura, but that our heroes have aura. They have moments where the music is swelling and they're standing there and it looks cool, and their cape is flying in the wind, their Jedi robe is flying in the wind, whatever it is. Make sure they are cool. And that also goes to the final part. This is a brief part I'll go into really quickly. Is the costumes have to be great. I would say just copy most of the costumes from the Old Republic, trailers and the cartoons there. Just in the game, I think focusing on that would be probably the best idea. A more armored up look for the Jedi, a more armored up look for the Sith. It is war after all, very similar to the Clone Wars idea. Focus on those things, I would say, and you'd probably have a really good thing. Make these Knights of the Old Republic look like actual knights. And I would name it that, by the way. I would name it Knights of the Old Republic, and then of course have a name for each movie on top of that. That's what I would do. But yeah, I think those would be the philosophies behind the movie when it comes to making these movies. I think if you put that together, I think that fans will really like that for the most part. These don't have to be absolute crazy masterpieces in every single way, but you do want to at the very least make sure that the theater experience is an experience that's going to be just very memorable. It's going to be very huge. That's what I would really focus on. But with that said, you just go on to the third part. But before we go into the third part, that's really important, the marketing part. I want to just say again, thank you guys for watching the video. If you made it this far in the video, give the video a like, subscribe for the content. Comment down below what you would do or what you want to do, whether you agree or disagree, all those different things. They help out the YouTube algorithm, help push my video. It's all very helpful for me. So again, I thank you guys all for doing that in advance. And with that out of the way, let's move on to the final part, which is the marketing. The final part to get into is the trailer. And the trailer is a very important part of this whole situation because Star Wars is in decline right now. It doesn't have a lot of trust amongst the actual fan base, and because of that, you have to build back up trust. And part of building up trust is having a banger trailer, a trailer that comes out there and smacks you in the mouth and says, watch this thing. This thing is going to be good, I promise you. And the philosophy I talked about before, about the philosophy of the actual filming, is going to help that because you're going to have these massive moments that are already good for a trailer in general. That's already there. You have these aura moments for the villain, aura moments for the hero that would be nice to show. Now, what I would do with trailer philosophy-wise, one of the biggest parts that trailers have been doing recently is they've been spoiling the movie, just throwing out random parts of the movie that are really important and just spoiling the entire thing. We're not trying to spoil the movie. We are trying to give an example of it. So for the first trailer, for example, the main idea would be this idea of something is coming from the dark. Very similar to the Force Awakens trailer, actually, because the Force Awakens did a good job of getting a bunch of mystery on there. Now, I would show a little bit more than that. I would show, of course, a couple of aura scenes. I could show a couple of interesting other things in there. One of the problems that the Force Awakens could do, because it was a return, is it could just show the Millennium Falcon and do the music and everyone was just gonna go crazy. It could show Chewie and Han and people just go crazy. That's how it would work for those guys. But for us, we don't have that ability. So we would just show cooler moments. We can show bits of lightsaber through what looks really nice. We can show a bit of a shootout that looks really nice. We can show bits of the actual ship fighting that looks nice. We can show these parts, but don't show the major moments. Don't show the massive audience stopping, the heart stopping moment. Don't show any of those. But if you want to show one of them, if you have to, you want to show one that's one of the least ones you have. That's pretty cool, but it's not like absolutely crazy. A good example of this is actually in the trailer of Force Awakens, where they just showed that lightsaber. They showed Kylo Ren's lightsaber turn on, and you saw that it was a new version, and people got excited. I think that's something that you should do. Show that. Something that's very similar to that. It's not going to be too crazy. Show the villain maybe standing and having aura. Show the hero in a cool way, and so on and so forth. That's what you want to focus on with these initial trailers, with the marketing in general. You should really focus on the battle between the Sith and the Jedi overall. You really focus on the fight scenes. They're going to be crazy. That should be the idea that the trailers focus on, and I think if you do that, you'll be really good. Focus on that, the mystery of the Sith in general, and the first one. The second one should be focused on the overwhelming power of the Sith, and they're just straight up defeating us, but we have a plan. And the third one should be focusing on, again, everything is going badly, very similar to Endgame. It's all bad. It's the end, the final battle, all that basic stuff. That's what the trailer should focus on. I think if you do all those three things, I think that you should be fine. I think that the overall trailers will do a very good job of helping the thing out. You saw a great example of this going badly inside of the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer, where they just focused on comedy, they focused on a couple of cool action moments here and there, but it was so disjointed, so mystery box filled, that you couldn't tell anything that's going to happen in the movie. You couldn't tell anything about it. Well, we want to give them at least some taste of the movie. The idea is the trailer is a free sample. It is not meant to be the entire thing, but it's meant to be a free sample, something that leaves you wanting more. And that's the idea. You're supposed to give a basic idea of what it is. We're not going to do the classic radio music thing, none of that. No radio music idea for this, no. Back to original Star Wars music, as well as some, a little bit, I would say something a little new. I want to add something new to it, but the newest would still be into that more orchestral, epic thing of it. So we want to, again, focus on the scale and the massiveness of this new thing. That's what it should be focused on the entire thing. So that's what I would do with the trailers. I think that would, again, get people back involved. If you saw a trailer which is talking about the Sith returning, and you see Star Wars: The Old Republic is the idea, you start seeing, a Sith standing there majestically with his cape in the wind and the red lightsaber as the darkness overwhelms him. You start seeing, an absolute really cool lightsaber battle. It's a brief part of like literally 3 seconds of just these lightsabers clashing, and the speed and the ferocity of it to be on a high level like the prequels had, but almost more realistic. I think that most people would see that and they'd be ready. They'd be ready to go, right? Maybe even show in one of the later trailers a moment of the villain, the hero about to attack you, about to have an absolute cool final battle in a really epic place. Those are all moments that I think that would get fans back in there. I think that most fans are just waiting for something cool, something epic to happen that can get them back into the overall Star Wars universe. I think that if you put that out there, you make the movies the way I just said to make the movies, you have the Old Republic thing idea, you come on there with a massive scale of everything, focusing on the cinematic parts of it, and then finally you end it with this idea of a really major trailer that's really going to focus on those things. You tell them it's not going to focus on comedy, it's not going to focus on random things, it's going to focus really on the scale and the massiveness, the aura and the fear of the Sith alongside the heroic powers of the Jedi. I think you'll get people back in the theater. I think you'll get people back to watch it. The trailers will do a great job of that, I think, in my personal opinion. I think that I honestly will go further than that. I don't even think it's my personal opinion. I think it's actually like, I'm not gonna lie, I think it's like almost like a fact. I think it's going to work if you do those things. But then again, that is just my opinion, ultimately speaking. What do you guys think? Comment down below if you agree or disagree. You can like the video, subscribe if you really want to, all those YouTube jazz. I just want to thank you guys in advance for doing those things. And with that all out the way, I'll stop rambling, let you guys go. But again, thank you, and until next time, Tiger Pack, stay ferocious.
Through a dream underneath the stars, laughing till the morning comes.